Morena! In this video, I'm going to be showing a typical cycling commute in Kirikiriroa Hamilton, New Zealand. We're going to use this commute as a case study into defensive cycling, things I think I did well on this particular morning, and things I think I could have done better, as well as advice to drivers on how to share the road safely with cyclists. So let's just get started. It's a good morning so far. We're just continuing along in the bicycle lane. The conditions and visibility are good. The road is a little wet as it was raining the night before, so we just need to keep that in mind that we may need some extra space for braking. We also need to know that the bike lane is not protected. As we're crossing through this slip lane here, we have to have a quick look over our shoulder to make sure that there are no cars, drivers that are trying to cut us off here. All is well, so we head up, stop at the red light, and make sure we stop at the top of the advanced cycle box so that we are clearly visible to the drivers behind us, and then wait for the light to turn green. Now here is something for us to keep an eye on. We can see the truck turning up ahead, but we can also see if we look closely that the cars have left a gap in the road. This is good driving, but it means that we need to pay attention and make sure that no drivers are crossing when we're passing through. Standing on our pedals is a good way to make sure we can make eye contact with drivers. And drivers, make sure that when you are crossing a type of gap left for you, this does not mean that you automatically have the right of way. You still need to check for and give way to cyclists. And here's another thing for us to look out for. The light has turned green before we hit the top of the queue. That means we need to look out for drivers who are cutting across our path, such as this gentleman here just did, by hanging back if possible so that we're not occupying the space at the same time as the driver is trying to cut through it. And drivers, you are legally required to give way to cyclists in situations like this. What that driver could have done better is by head checking, then hanging back to confirm that to us that he had seen us, and then letting us proceed first. Let's carry on. Can you spot the hazard here? We definitely need to keep an eye on this van, making eye contact to make sure that they've seen us, but we also need to pay attention to this car. Their engine is on, which means they might be about to pull out, which is something to keep an eye on, or they may have just pulled in, which means they may be about to open their door. So we keep an eye on it, prepared to stop, but luckily everything is alright, so we carry on our way. Drivers, remember to always check over your shoulder when getting into and out of your car to make sure that you don't accidentally strike a cyclist. Our next hazard is this truck, which has been parked in such a way to partially block the bike lane by using up some of that space we need. I do a couple head checks and I don't really have the gap I need to take the lane, so I reduce my speed and move past the truck with extreme caution. On reflection, I really should have just stopped and waited for that safe gap, because being so close to that truck in its blind spot without knowing if there's even a driver in the seat is really not a safe decision. And drivers, remember that you cannot park your vehicle in such a way to block either fully or partially the bike lane. That truck driver should have parked somewhere else. Our next challenge is going through this roundabout. Our goal is to take the lane, which means to occupy the center of the lane, which improves visibility and decreases the likelihood of drivers undertaking unsafe passing. There's a gap that opens up here, so we indicate, move over, check the roundabout is clear, and then proceed, maintaining a central position in the roundabout and only seating that position back into the bike lane upon exiting, and we carry on. If we look ahead on the left here, we can see a car and trailer backing out of this driveway. We will slow down and attempt to make eye contact before carrying on. In this case, the driver does actually stop, so we carry on, but they clearly weren't stopping for us. I stopped here to try to have a conversation with the driver, but they actually ended up moving back into the driveway, so they clearly had no awareness of us at all, which is extremely dangerous. Drivers, you must look behind you when you're moving backwards, and you must be aware when there is a bike lane, and frankly, even when there is not, to keep an eye out for cyclists who are moving at a different pace than the rest of traffic. The traffic lights here have just turned green, which means we need to pay attention to any drivers potentially crossing our path on the slip lane, like this driver here who had decided not to use their indicator and not to give way to us. In this case, using a horn or bell to help make the driver aware of us could have helped in this situation. The driver could have also helped by indicating well in advance, as is required by law, and checking their blind spot before proceeding across the bike lane. We want to make a right-hand turn at this traffic light, but we don't want to have to change lanes across high-speed, high-volume traffic. So what we're going to do is head straight through and then stop in this box right here. There isn't always a box, but the aim is to stop at the opposite traffic light and then wait for our turn to go again. And then we carry on. We're lastly just making a left turn here, and the main thing we're looking out for in this situation is any drivers who may have illegally entered the slip lane prior to the entry point, and we can make sure of that with a quick head check. And then making sure we're taking a central position on the slip lane, but also on this exit lane, as there is no shoulder and no bike lane. So to keep ourselves safe, we occupy the middle of the lane, which gives us really good visibility to other road users and means that drivers will not be coming very, very close to us. We have now reached the center of Kirikiriroa Hamilton, which means we've also reached the end of this video. Leave a comment below with any extra tips and tricks for defensive cycling and anything you may have noticed that I may have missed. Thank you, and keep riding safe.